Okay, well, thank you so much for coming to our campaign today. We are really proud of what we have for you and can't wait to show it to you. So, without further ado, I'm Cori Schwabe.
I'm Kathryn, Kawa.
And I'm Allison Grummert, and we are part of 3 AM. So if you'd like to introduce yourselves to our team.
I'm Mattison. I'm the project manager.
I'm Nick Holle. I'm the IT guy.
I'm Derrick. Sloan. I'm the copywriter.
I'm Brittany Guidon, and I'm the media director.
And I'm Gabrielle Silke, the art director.
And I'm Hinrichs, and I am a director of PR.
Perfect. That's our team. So to get started with, earlier this fall or this spring semester, you had charged us with raising awareness for RTBS's brand, and we kind of listened a little bit further, and we understood that raising awareness with that brings more applications, more money for RTBS, more volunteers, and overall a better business. So what we want to do is not only raise awareness, but just increase your business in general. So we did that by looking at our research. First, we started off with secondary research, and then we did primary research. From there, we developed our key insights, and we came up with a new branding scheme for RTBS. With our branding scheme and our research and key insights, we then developed our campaign, and we came up with a few executions.
Okay, so initially, we wanted to learn more about RTBS in order to get a direction for our campaign. So here are our top 5 objectives when we began. We wanted to learn how professionals help people who are developing blindness transition from a sighted world to a non-sighted world. And then we wanted to know more about the day-to-day lives of people living with blindness, because that's something that we've definitely interested us. And then learning about how our potential audiences could receive media. And number 4, determining the number of people in Nebraska who live with vision impairedness or blindness. And number 5, we really wanted to find out about how your listeners or volunteers perceive RTBS. So we went about it by conducting 14 phone interviews. All of us in the room, all of us agencies conducted those, and we shared that information. And then we, as our own team, had 7 face-to-face interviews, and then 4 email questionnaires, as well as looking through 12 published journals and scholarly articles. Our secondary research led us to these top 3 key findings. The first one being that blindness is actually the leading cause of feeling a loss of independence for individuals aged 65 years of age or older. And this really applies to RTBS, knowing that a lot of your audience has developed macular degeneration with age. The second one is that we learned that a lot of the first contacts for people who are developing blindness go to the doctor or to resource organizations for the visually impaired. And the third, learning that 66% of adults are online using at least one social media network. And even though this may not be your listeners, this could be their children or their grandchildren. From our primary research, we actually learned that RTBS is enjoyed by people who are both blind and sighted. We spoke with someone, an activity coordinator at a long-term residential healthcare center, and she said that just to hear her voice is comforting for her residents. We also learned that 11 out of 14 of the RTBS listeners we interviewed listen alone at home by themselves to your programming. And then 6 out of 12 learn about RTBS just from healthcare providers or these resource organizations. And then lastly, the RTBS is currently only reaching a portion out of almost 32,000 people living in Nebraska who are visually impaired. And then this slide shows our 5th objective, which is how RTBS is perceived by your listeners. And 2 that really stood out to us for the direction of our campaign was this here, that takes care of a lot of long hours, and this here. To me, Radio Talking Book Service fills a void. Now, because you provide a service that benefits all sorts of people, you have such a broad range of potential audiences. And we know that you have really, between your staff and your listeners and your volunteers, have conducted great word of mouth in order to increase listenership over the years. So we want to maintain that good relationship, and so we wanted to break these down in order to figure out how to most effectively reach new and potential listeners. So we broke it down by ophthalmologists, resource organizations for the visually impaired, and residential healthcare centers. We call these people the influencers. And then we have the public, which includes friends and family. And then we definitely want to make sure to keep in contact with current listeners, volunteers, and donors. We call this your fan base. With all of this research in mind, we found what we like to call the link between potential listeners and the people who contact them most frequently. So we would like to position RTBS as a tool to help with the transition from a sighted world to a non-sighted world.
From that, we developed some new branding for RTBS, sticking along the links of the transitional tool from a sighted world to a non-sighted world, along with just that tool, we really feel that RTVS, we like to call it your audio companion. On this slide right here is kind of the image that really inspired us creatively to create something new for you. As you'll see, there's a beige color, a yellow, a red, a teal, and a black. We decided to go with the beige, red, teal, and black. And we left out the yellow, but that was just our personal choice. So on the next slide, you'll see there is our logo. We came up with a brand new logo for RTVS. From our research, we also found out that your listeners identify RTVS by the acronym RTVS, so we didn't want to change your name, but we wanted to refer to it through the acronym usage. So as you'll see, RTVS, your audio companion. We decided to stick with the microphone. Not only is it an iconic microphone that symbolizes radio, but we kind of modernized it by vectorizing it with just black and white colors. This is just an example of what the application would look like with your new logo on top of it. And then also, as you'll see in front of you in the packets provided, there is a flipbook. This flipbook is just to give more information about RTVS's services, who to contact, and all of that, but also giving it a more visually appealing way. This is an example of one of the pages inside of it. And then also in your packet, there is a brochure. This brochure also is very colorful. It sticks along our color theme, but it's very streamlined, only to give the most pertinent information about RTVS to potential listeners. So, coupled with branding and our new positioning tool of positioning RTVS as a tool, to transition from the sighted world to a non-sighted world, we have come up with an integrated campaign for you. First, we want to inform the influencers. Then we want to educate the public, and last but not least, we want to connect our families. So to inform influencers, this is just an example of what an influencer might be. And again, the influencers are the eye care professionals, the resource organizations, and the assisted living facilities. Just kind of something about them, generalizing it. They've heard about RTVS, but they don't really know much about it. They work with people who are visually impaired or elderly on a daily basis. And they also make frequent referrals to specialized services, but they are also very busy due to their professions. So we want to educate these influencers and inform them about RTVS's services by going to them in the hopes that they'll speak for RTVS. So how we're going to do that is through community relations. They'll receive a quarterly e-newsletter through MailChimp. They will have the option to opt out so they don't reference RTVS with spam. From there, they can request a starter kit or request a radio by opting into either of those. The starter kit, which is in front of you, is really important because it will inform not only the influencer about RTVS, but it will provide them with materials to get out about RTVS. The radio is really important because from our research, we have found out that most people like to find out about RTVS through fidgeting with the radio and actually seeing and holding it and hearing what it says. So from requesting the starter kit and requesting a radio, we're hoping then that they'll refer others to RTVS. And overall, our hopes are that it will increase the applications. This is an example of our MailChimp, the e-newsletter. There's two different versions. There's the RTVS Lifestyles, which will be sent to resource organizations and assisted living facilities. And then there's RTVS RX, which will be sent to doctors. And then this is an example of what is in your starter kit. So on the right, you have your flipbook. On the left, you have your application, business card, and brochure. The flipbook and the business card will be for the actual influencers. They'll be able to learn about RTVS as well as we'll provide them with contact information to get a hold of you. But they'll also have 25 applications and 25 brochures to hand out to those who are interested about RTVS or who they think would benefit from RTVS.
Okay, next would be to educate the public. This woman here is an example of someone in the public. Primarily people who have never heard of RTVS, but yet they probably know someone who's blind or visually impaired and would benefit from your services. So we've created 2 public service announcements, 2 news releases, 2 radio spots, and then Nick Holle, a member of the 3AM team, also created a new website for you that is live and ready to go. So Amanda's actually going to click through parts of the website so you can see how it works. So what it is, user-friendly from the back end, so you can put in stories fairly easily. It's using WordPress, and then it's also visitor-friendly. It is WC3 compliant, and as you can tell, it's color-coded, and you can really feel it has a great interface that helps you just be able to skip around to the parts that you need. So that is ready for your use at any point. So We also created 2 radio spots. Okay, so we created 2 radio spots. One that is more sentimental and heartwarming, and another that is fun and unconventional. So we would like to ask you, since you are visitors, which would you like to hear? Any preference? Paul?
Fun and unconventional.
Radio Talking Book Service is like sliced bread. It's perfect. You can't make a sandwich with Radio Talking Book Service, but that's all right. Wheat don't mind. We are a radio reading service for those who have visual or physical disabilities that prevent them from enjoying printed material. We have live readings of local and regional newspapers as well as entertaining and informational programming. If you or someone you know could benefit from our service, apply today for a free radio receiver by calling 402-572-3003 or on rtbs.org. Radio Talking Book Service, your audio companion.
Thirdly and finally, we intend to connect RTBS's current existing fan base, which includes listeners, volunteers, and donors. Here, the types of fans or listeners individuals who might fall into this category are those who've been listening to our RTBS for over 10 years or for some other significant period of time and really feel like they know the volunteer readers at RTBS personally. Some might also just be curious about what's new at RTBS in general. To enhance listener relations, we aim to have listeners, volunteers, and donors interact with you on Facebook and by visiting the RTBS blog, which is hosted on the website that we just recently showed you. Current listeners will also continue to receive quarterly newsletters in the mail. And your fan base, through these means, will become lifetime supporters of RTBS. Here you will see a screenshot of our vision for your Facebook page. This will allow you to more easily interact with your fan base and will allow you to update content very timely, news, updates, all of that. And of course, the blog will be featured. You can link blog posts to the Facebook page. Here is the blog as featured on the website. And we kind of envision this as a means for you to really engage with everyone, all of your fan base. And we kind of have envisioned it as something that Paul perhaps might be more frequently contributing to, though not necessarily. Of course, others could blog for him, and as he becomes more comfortable with the process, he might contribute more frequently. But we really feel like he has such a unique perspective, and the blogs, of course, would then be linked on your Facebook page as well. And then we kind of move on to how we believe that our campaign can be most effectively executed. We recognize that your staff is humble in size, and so we want to make all of this as easy as possible for you to to take on after we've left things off. So here we propose the creation of a community relations intern position, and this is an element of our campaign that I know we've spoken to you about already, and it seems like you're open to the idea. We've listed the qualifications of the intern on the left here, and then we've made our suggestions for compensation and recruitment on the right. So Deb, you would serve as the PR coach or mentor, and John, you would serve as the overall supervisor of day-to-day activities. Here we've kind of outlined an array of some of the tasks we envision the intern will execute. So such as the intern will write and send quarterly newsletters, update the blog and maintain the website, and manage the Facebook page on your behalf. Here we have our proposed media schedule, which will start on June 1st of this year. Our media schedule is an intermittent flighting pattern that has about 2 to 3 months in between the various introductions of certain elements, in between sort of depending on relevant events and what have you. And of course our starter kits will be available year-round on request. Here we show our proposed budget for you. John had set a budget for us originally of $20,000. And as you can see, $9,600, or the bulk of our budget, will go to paid radio spots. But of course, the remainder will be divided among the summer internship program, the printing and mailing of newsletters and starter kits, and the use of Google AdWords for search optimization. And since we have come in under that $20,000 budget at around $16,500, we recommend you use the remainder of the funds to aid in your transition over to a digital format. And of course, we have more specifics on in our plans book for you. And then to review, we have our campaign objectives on the left and our measures of evaluation on the right. So to assess increased brand awareness, we will conduct pre and post campaign surveys and measure website traffic via Google Analytics. And then to assess strengthened relationships with our target audience and the media, we will conduct post-testing surveys. So ultimately, we sought to inform influencers, to educate the public, and to connect the RTBS fan base. We believe that our campaign can successfully achieve what you originally asked us to do, which was to raise awareness. Radio Talking Book Service, we believe, is a tool that can help with the transition between sightedness and blindness. RTBS is your audio companion. Thank you for your time.
Questions from the client first. Paul.
What is the URL, please, of the website? Because I want to go try Jaws on it.
It's RTBS. It will be rtbs.org, but Nick has it as his website now.
Right now it's posted on my domain at nickholle.com/rtbs.
And we have your email address, so you can email that to
cool.
you
If
too.
you could please,
Yeah.
I'd love
Absolutely.
to. I'll be going back to work this evening. I'd love to try it.
Perfect.
Other questions?
Yeah, speaking of the website, Paul and a lot of people who would access the website are visually impaired or blind. What thought was given to making it as accessible as possible? I mean, what things were?
A lot of the research I did was really looking into suggestions, not only from official guidelines and compliance rules that are set out, but also then just looking at navigation suggestions that other blind users have laid out. So obviously having skip links to jump past redundant information at the top, making sure the navigation is consistent, and really having different attributes for the links to make sure that there's always a description of where the link is going to lead, and picture descriptions. I think a lot of what RTBS had currently was very accessible to blind individuals. It just wasn't really as accessible or eye-friendly to someone who's viewing it. So for instance, eye care doctors who are trying to find more information, they're really kind of going to benefit from the makeover of this while maintaining the blind accessibility features.
Yeah?
Did that answer your question?
Would whoever's the intern, I mean, would they be, if it's not Nick, would they be able to, work with the website? I mean, they may not have the expertise that Nick does, but would they be able to go forward and do things with it? Okay.
WordPress is a content management system. So from the back end, it's very simple. It says post a blog, like post something to the blog or post something to the news. And you can go in and change on text on the pages, or if something changes, it's super accessible. I use it, and I'm not a web programmer by any means.
And we've specified that as one of the qualifications for the intern, so hopefully people applying will have some background in that.
Okay.
Other questions?
On your cost, like this is a real fancy. Your material is very nice. What kind of quantities were you thinking about with this cost, or is that just?
We actually have a list that we developed for you for the intern where and who we're going to send out these starter kits to. And from that, I think there's about 1,400 people on there. And so we took that as if we could just reach 10% of those people. If 10% wanted to have a starter kit, so that'd be 140. That's how we priced it out and got a little over 3,000 from there. It's about $22 per starter kit.
Per kit.
Yeah. And then that is just over 1 year. So depending on the next year, you may have already reached a lot of those people.
And you know, if you are tight on funds too, all of these are PDF formatted. So all you would have to do is just email it out to them, sync them together.
I think we kind of imagined that they would be on the website.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
in
is it
general.
on the website somewhere, or it could be on the website, sure, okay.
Yep.
A quick,
Oh, yes, go ahead.
go ahead.
Well, I was curious, you referenced to using Facebook and the email newsletters. How does someone with visual impairment use those tools?
Well, for our campaign, we decided that our target audience were really the eye care professionals, the resource organizations, and the assisted living facilities. So that target audience would then, there are influencers, and so that's where the newsletters and the Facebook would really come in hand, is to inform them how to speak. Because one important thing we found from our research was that when they start developing macular degeneration, or just start that process, they go to someone first, and they go to these eye care professionals, resource organizations, or assisted living facilities to find out about all of their options. Paul?
I do use email every day for correspondence, and I do have a Facebook account, but I'm real lazy about updating my status.
So do you have like a voice
Yes.
program on the computer that then?
Exactly. The one I
Okay.
use at work is called JAWS. That stands for Job Access with Speech. And it's made by a company called Freedom Scientific. They've been around for over 20 years. And then I have another one at home called Window Eyes, which is very similar.
Well, I was aware of those programs to use with documents. I guess I just didn't know how it worked with Facebook. It still can.
It seems to pretty well.
We had a university person come and talk to us one day about JAWS and about how to do all of this. So when the semester was just beginning, we were learning a lot about how blind and visually impaired people are able to use digital means.
And Paul also showed us how JAWS functions and how he navigates all the email. We actually sent a couple emails to him to make
Yeah, I
sure.
read them too.
Yeah.
Tom, you do have a question
I
there?
had a question about if you elect your program and looking at the timelines, how quickly can Radio Talking Book spool up in your program? How quickly, and what are some of the advantages with that, and maybe what are some of the learning things that are going to be required of the staff, the volunteer staff that's at Radio Talking Book?
Well, we, Kathryn and I and the rest of the team, we developed a whole Excel file full of contacts already. So that's a head start for you all, because you've got everything from all the ophthalmologists in Nebraska, as well as some from Iowa, a lot of the resource organizations that you've talked with us about, but I'm sure that there are definitely more that you have contact with, or at least regular contact with. And so for you all, I think a lot of it is maintaining that relationship. Like the Nebraska Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired, when we called them, they said, "Oh yes, we love our TBS." And I'm like, this is awesome, because this is the kind of relationship that we're looking for. And so if you could continue to build those relationships and just kind of be the face or the encouragement behind who our TBS is, and continuing that word of mouth, this is just a tangible thing that you can be able to send to them. And with that encouragement behind them, we hope to champion these influencers to be able to speak on behalf of our TBS.
Also, the intern will help you out with your day-to-day process, such as printing off all of this stuff, putting the starter kits together, mailing them out, sending the MailChimps out to all the contact lists that we provided for you. So they'll be able to help you out with a lot of that day-to-day mundane tasks that are kind of associated with this.
And I know we had a general year-long timeline, and we've first kind of introduced the intern as a summer intern, but certainly, I mean, if funds allow and if you guys are really enjoying that partnership, then the internship I think could definitely continue.
I guess a follow on to that, do you have a priority of what you would do first, second, third, and fourth in terms of your program?
Well, it's all very integrated. But I would think that the starter kits are definitely something that's tangible that can replace what you've already been giving out, and something that's in a folder and you can hand to them, that the doctors or they can have on their shelf or on their desk and ready. But then the intern is definitely going to come alongside you 20 hours a week, 15, 20 hours a week, depending on what you're most comfortable with, to be able to help with those mundane tasks and get those taken care of.
There's more details in our plans book, which will be handed at the end of this presentation, but you would probably start out with sending a MailChimp for first and foremost to that whole entire list of people. From then they'll opt in for the starter kits, and then you can send the starter kits as they opt in. After you're done with MailChimp, I would suggest running the in our media schedule that we have a month after the MailChimp and the starter, or the MailChimp and the hard copy newsletters for the listeners go out. We would suggest then running the radio spots. So then they get it that month, and then the next month they hear it on the radio and they're reminded of RTVS, and then hopefully they'll act.
Does your plan have in it a suggested run for the radio spots?
Yes. Yes. We have what
stations?
times and stations.
Yes.
Yep.
A lot of what we looked at would be Omaha and Lincoln. Brittany put all of that work together. She has a whole media list as well, included in the Decibel Media Book.
Questions from the faculty? We have time for one or two. Good? All right, well, thank you very much.